Welcome to the Communicating Capital podcast, where communication, finance, and business get a fresh perspective. Hosted by a dynamic team of women in the industry, we're here to redefine the conversation with candid, no-nonsense interviews featuring top executives, communication experts, and industry leaders. With a focus on clarity and real-world impact, we make the complex world of business digestible and relatable. So whether you're a seasoned professional or you're just interested in our world, we're here to help you navigate the space in new and exciting ways. Today, we're diving into the world of product building, user experience, and the future of social-driven organization with Kyle Hudson, who's the co-founder of Stacklist. Stacklist is transforming the way people save, organize, and share their favorite experiences. Whether it's restaurants, travel destinations, books, or recipes, instead of scattered lists across multiple apps, Stacklist creates a centralized, searchable, and shareable hub for recommendations, making it easy to recall and collaborate on the things that matter most. Kyle, welcome to Communicating Capital.
Thank you.
I'm so happy to have you. I've been watching your journey now ever since I was introduced to you by our mutual friend Jake, who was also a podcast guest. I would like you to start with us, just taking us back to the moment where you're like, look, there's a problem. We need to build Stacklist. Just take us behind the inspiration behind it. What problem were you trying to solve? Just your whole story.
Yeah, totally. It's funny. My wife and I were actually recalling our first date. And when we went on our first date, we went to the house in New York, which is no longer there, Tier. But we sat on the second floor overlooking the city. And we were talking so much back and forth about like, oh, you haven't seen that? Oh, we should see that. And you haven't, like, we started saying all the stuff that we should do together. And I got up and went and asked the waitress and I got a list and I started making a list, and it's funny when you think about that idea of sharing things or making lists about things. And fast forward to, let's see, it would have been 2 years later, we went to Venice together and we went to a private opera in an old Doge's palace. It was amazing. Like there were 50 people there and you sort of every act you move to a new room. And it was like just one of those kind of once every 10 years kind of experiences. So weird though, to come home and have conversations about that. And I had a number of people that were like, that sounds amazing. Can you send that to me? And I'm like, was that on TripAdvisor? No. Did I find that on... Maybe I Google mapped it. Did I star that? And all of a sudden you're trying to think through all the different platforms and places that you sort of do stuff. It's so weird to me to have a favorite thing that you can't just be like, yeah, hold on. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like that's a problem that all of us have. I mean, I definitely have it. And it's with my everyday things too. It's like, I really want to try this restaurant. There's so many restaurants to try. There's so many places to go. There's so many things to see. And it's like, how do you organize all of that? And like your mental note, you'll never remember it.
Well, and think about restaurants specifically. And restaurants is a good use case for the platform, but it's not the only one. But think about restaurants. Typically, your restaurants where you either want to go or where you've been is in Google Maps stars, Open Table, Resi, Talk, Belly. Like
so
you
funny.
just, you know what I mean? Like you just
Yeah.
have all these places and each one of them wants you to only use theirs. And it's like, we don't work that way.
I love that. And I was looking up your background, obviously, and I was listening into your podcast and I hear that Stacklist is so different. I would like to know, how do you make the experience more seamless for users? Because I do love Belly and I do love Open Table, but I do understand that there are some difficulties with that when it comes to what we're talking about. So I'd love to hear your feedback.
So we started with a browser extension. So we have extensions on Safari and Chrome and Edge and Firefox and Opera, all of them. So that way, whenever you're on a website, you can really just hit the extension and it pulls the title and the link. You can even have it pull some notes and then you hit save and it just goes into your Stacklist account. So if you're on the website, just about as difficult as it would be to bookmark it in Chrome, you would end up sending it to Stacklist. Same sort of thing on the mobile app. We have Android and iOS. If you're in Chrome or Safari or whatever you use, any app on your mobile phone, you can hit share just like you would text to a friend. And instead, you essentially just send it to Stacklist and it opens up and it saves it. You could type a few notes and hit save. It's just as easy as being able to text or bookmark something. You would get it into Stacklist. And now I can say, show me all my New York restaurants. And it would pull restaurant websites, Google Maps, Open Table, like wherever I've saved it from, I have those links. And I can also add the notes, like, I had the fish. It was amazing. Tom was our server. Ask for him. whatever.
Can you share this with your friends as well? So
Mhm.
like, could they see, okay, that is amazing. So it's sociable.
It's very social. Nobody has to have Stacklist. Like basically when I send it to you, you get a stack. It says, here's those New York restaurants you asked for. And it would have notes. Great seeing you. Maybe we'll catch up again soon. Here's the things it's the same that you do when you text someone. You typically don't just send a link and then like leave. You
Yeah.
send a link and you're like, remember when we were talking yesterday? You ask about. And so it's the card is what we call it, but it's essentially a link with a photo and some notes. Kind of gives you all the context that you need about what's behind that thing. And the context usually is, I love this thing. I've used it for 5 years. You should use, whatever. But people don't have to have Stacklist to answer your question. They can just click and go use the link. But if they don't want to
They
sort of
should,
repeat
apparently. Yeah,
the process,
100%. I was going to say they might as well download it and start
as
using it.
soon as you open it and you check it out, where are you going to put that?
Right. Exactly.
And so that's what we're trying to help solve.
I love that. I can't tell you how many links I have saved in my Instagram like links folder, and I'm like, I'm never going to look at those again.
Bookmarks.
I have no idea. Yes.
So like X and Instagram both are always like, oh, that's so cool. And then it just goes there to die. And so instead of doing that, you can also take all your Instagram and X posts and just put them in as well. So then you could say, show me all my travel stuff. And that would show you Instagram stuff and Lonely Planet and X. And so across all of your socials, you could just put them there. And now when you're planning for a trip, you can actually, reference those things that you saved.
I love that you're mentioning this because the social aspect of it, the community driven aspect of it is so important. And so for you, as you've been working in this industry and you're building this and you're trying to share it with everybody that you can, what trends are you seeing within the social search and community driven discovery space?
I think what's interesting, there's a convergence of two things. One being Gen Z kind of has a no BS meter, which is why, is I think coming from, growing up in the Nintendo generation of like the late 70s or 80s, 90s, we had the McDonald's and all the commercials and everything is very sort of commercialized. But I think the first sort of native generation to grow up during, social media also has a very good sniff test to be like, I think you're trying to get me to do something, but I don't want to do. And so it's all about authenticity. What's interesting is that's converging with AI, which is basically like, I can write you 1,000 blog posts in a minute. And it's like, wait, but that ends up just being sort of like copy paste that doesn't really sort of add value. Right. And so what we're talking about is essentially converging into what is authentic and what is also human curated. And if I ask you for good restaurant, like I could go to Perplexity and say, show me top 10 Italian restaurants. What's interesting is it ends up pulling those from places like Yelp. Yelp is probably not the best place to go find the best restaurants. And so what I would rather do is be connected to you and to Jake and to 5 other people and search, New York restaurants and get 4 recommendations. But I guarantee you those 4 are the ones. And so that's how we want to start searching.
I love that. It's something that you recently wrote about was building Stacklist and the process of turning this idea into a product. And by the way, I love that you're documenting from building from zero to where you are now. I think it's absolutely incredible and it's different. And it also makes people more enticed to support you, to support what you're doing. And then also we get to know why it would benefit us. So that's something we'll talk about in just a few, but going back to you writing about that, what have been some of the biggest challenges and biggest surprises you've had encountered while developing and scaling such a tech? I mean, this is a tech platform, right?
Yeah, it is a platform, very much like Facebook or Instagram or X, any of the platforms that we're sort of used to, just connecting on your phone, on the mobile, and just it's wherever you need to be. And I would say that, this is my first time. I built product either for myself, and I've worked in agency for 20 something years now, running projects for people like Google and Harley and Spotify. But what happened is I hit my 45th birthday and I was like, you know what? I've been doing this for a long time for other people. I was like, I want to build my own thing. And so setting out on this journey has really been interesting, especially when you start asking people for money. What you're not supposed to ask. You're only supposed to say like, do you know anybody who might be interested? But you're really like, would you be interested? But as you start to raise money, everyone, not everyone, but like most people it's very hard to take something that is not a paradigm that we're used to right now and and try and sort of sell that idea super early. And people usually, well, why don't you niche down and just sort of do what Belly does? And I'm going, but wait a second, but then I'm just another one that's following sort of Belly and Talk and Resi, you know, and all the other sort of restaurant. And so it takes a little bit, but then once once we built it, we start doing it, and we've got influencers with, you know, hundreds of thousands or millions of followers that are using it and showing it and sharing it. Then people go like, oh, okay, I see it. So that's my biggest thing is that, you know, you kind of think when you first start, when you have an idea and you're like, I see how this is going to be in 5 or 10 years, that you start telling people and you think they're going to see it. And most of the times it's like, I can't really see it because I'm not used to how this fits into how we kind of currently work.
And something that you were just talking about is starting out on your own and doing something different. That's totally what I want to talk about right now when it comes to entrepreneurship. It's about balancing this vision with your execution. I want to know what your approach is to prioritizing features, user feedback, and ensuring that you're building something that truly meets people's needs. And then on top of that, you also are trying to raise capital. So there's like so many different hats you're wearing right now. I'd love to know how you're balancing it all.
Dark chocolate in the evenings. And I don't some Xbox on Saturday morning. Like I really, it's interesting. There is no real balance. I think it's just finding sort of what works for you and where you're at. Luckily, you know, I've got, my wife is so supportive. She has a full-time job, but she's also a fantastic UI UX designer. And it helps to have a spouse who also like enjoys going to the bottom of the ocean to figure this stuff out too. Because I've had days where I am just completely 100%, I'm done. And like, I don't have any brain space for anything. And I'm just about to go to bed. And she'll go, you know what we could do? If you drop down like that, you know, and it's sort of like, and I'm like, okay, I think that's a good idea. But like, I need to like put that into tomorrow. I just don't
power couple. That's a total power couple.
Yeah. It's, totally. But it's nice to, you know, obviously from a supportive perspective, I think it's harder, obviously, when you're older and I've got 2 kids, one 8 and one 4, you know, and you're at the max capacity of what your brain can hold. And I go pick up my 4-year-old and he wants to hear what feels like death metal, sort of like kids monster truck songs where they're like maximum destruction, you know, and that's all he wants to listen to. So I have to try and find this like Zen place where I'm kind of like, okay, I can do this. But yeah, there's not really a balance. I think it's one of those that luckily for doing product and design and working with design teams for so long, I also have a terrible habit of using or signing up for almost everything that comes out. So like when I saw Loom come out for the first time, I like sign up and I'm giving feedback to the team, you know, when I see like Asana come out or like any of these things come out, like I get in there, I do it and I try and understand it. And I think then that just ends up becoming 20 plus years of how features should work. And, you know, it's a little less asking. I'm not really asking in the beginning, users, what do you want? Because we're also doing something a bit different. And so it's just like trying to sort of match and mirror how people typically use things these days. And then once it becomes stable, then you start saying, okay, how could this get sort of incrementally better?
I love that you're saying that. And so we've been hearing different feedback from other people that have come on the podcast, and they're talking about the power of recommendations, which is essentially what we're talking about here. Why do you think recommendations from friends and trusted sources are so much more powerful than generic search results? And I feel like that's shifted in the last, 20 years or so.
But search results have been they've just gotten gross when it comes to, you can pay people to get you on the number 1 spot, you know, stars. Go on Yelp and like look at restaurants. And if the average is 4.1 stars, when you see a 4.1 star restaurant, your brain goes like, oh, that must just be, what's wrong with it? Like if it's not like at least 4.7 or 4.8, but then even then your brain for a second goes, wonder what happened to that 0.2.
And then you're looking at the 1-star reviews.
What was the one? Yeah. And so like, I think this after a while, and really you can have a fantastic restaurant that somebody had a bad experience with a host or hostess, or didn't like a dish. And now it's sort of like that place is terrible. What I think about is, if people just asked me, like, what cell phone case do you use? They would probably also know that I go through I have like 5 or 6 like old ones sitting here. I just go through them and I try them, and I really sort of enjoy that process of curating my life. And so people know that I sort of am fairly thoughtful about it. So if somebody said, what headphones do you use? Or what headphones do you use when you run? Or, what hard drive do you use when you're backing up your photos? They know that I would have spent a fair amount of time doing that. And so instead of asking the world which hard drive is best as a solid state for a photographer, how about ask the person that that's been doing this for a little while and get that one recommendation? And you're basically getting all the work that they did in sort of the best, like, this is what I use right now. And then you're like, okay, great, I'm all done. And so we all curate our lives. And so if we can kind of pass that curation on, then I think that's the best route.
And I agree with you. As somebody that's going to be a very avid user of everything you're doing and Stacklist in general, I feel like I'm going to be right there with you.
What would your one thing be? Like, what would your one stack that? Or
I already know.
What? No. Like,
I already know.
No, what is it?
It's restaurants. It's got to be restaurants. And it's not that I don't love all the other apps, like, because I do, but I want something that's more not like sociable, like, because Belly's pretty big and like obviously it's growing, but I like the fact that I could send it to my husband and we have like our own set of restaurants, if that makes sense. And we can continuously add to them. And the fact that there's a Chrome extension is even more for me because I'm online on the computer all the time. And so if I'm seeing something or if my teammate put something in Slack, I won't remember it. I won't remember it, especially if it's not on my cell phone.
We have to ask your coworker to go sign up for Belly so you can share something. And it's like, all of a sudden it becomes fairly small. Versus being anywhere. And we're super close, by the way. I won't put a time frame on it because Martina will get on to me. But but we're super close on collaborative. So basically, you and a friend could have a stack that you both add to and take away from.
I was just going to ask you about that.
And so basically you both could curate something and then it becomes both of your lists and you put it on your profiles and you work on it and you're the only ones that can sort of edit it. Or you could have 4 or 5 people join one and put everything in for a trip. And now you sort of mirror that with comments. Now you sort of have a little social network that you've created around a trip, but you're not doing it in a platform that you have to go sign up like Circle or some other sort of community platform. You're doing it in the same that's connected to what you end up putting in, like your favorite soap or like whatever, like all the things. It's still connected to all that.
My husband and I need this right now when it comes to trips and planning and restaurants and everything else that we want to do. It would be perfect for us. Absolutely.
Well, we have a concierge team. So what we'll do is I'll introduce you to the concierge team and they're amazing. Basically, one of the things that we started doing with this is having a service-based sort of part to it where the onboarding is always a little tough. Like you start and then you're like, okay, what do I want to put in here? And so like we actually have a team that will come help sort of if you've got a spreadsheet or if you've got like Amazon favorites or books on Amazon you've read, Kindle, whatever, that we can take stuff like that and just put it in. So you sort of start with some of those like key lists from the beginning.
I didn't even think of the book list. I'm in the amount of book clubs that I'm in. I mean, I don't know if you can see behind me, but my bookshelf is like overflowing in my home. That's perfect for a book club.
I'm going to help you get that whole book stack into Stacklist. So if you go to stacklist.app/Kyle, it's my personal profile. And I have a list. It's called Books. And it's basically a number of stacks, like what I've read, my audiobooks. And then what I've read, I think has 53 cards in it. So like you can see it with my notes. And then if you saw something that you had never read before, you can basically just hit save and then it goes into your stack list. And so you don't have to like go do any, like you just hit save and it's in your own account. So
I've never been more excited. I'm going to share. We have our book club this Sunday. I'm going to share it with them because we're always trying to figure out like the best ways to share the books. And yes, there's Goodreads, but like a lot of people don't like that that's so public and you have to have it private or people have to follow you. So we don't really use that. And so we just send it to each other. other on text or Instagram and stuff. And that's so disorganized. So this is perfect.
Totally. And so you can basically find a new thing on Amazon or wherever, and then save it with the Chrome extension. And then you get a link just for that card. And if you sent it to a friend and they hit save, they're saving your card of that book into their account.
I love it. I'm so excited to try that. Okay, you asked me which one would be my favorite. That would be my favorite. Restaurants come second.
Amazing. Well, I'm going to help you get we just did it for an influencer on Book Talk. I think we put in 250 books from Amazon. And so now, where's the best place to go? What was that?
And can this influencer link it in their social media? And then all of us who follow her can go see it. Oh my.
Yep.
Yeah, that's it.
And then what we're super close to doing also is following. So you could follow her, or you could just follow her sort of like science fiction stack or whatever. Mm-hmm. And when she adds a new book to it, then you would get notified that she added that book.
I'm sold. I bet you everybody that's listening in that also reads books will probably be sold too. This is amazing. Nice. This is amazing. Kyle, I do want to pivot really quickly because I did hint on this a few times. You've been building in public and we all find it so intriguing. And frankly, I actually really love that you're doing that. And I love tuning into some of the stuff that you put out there, sharing insights, launching and growing Stacklist, just the whole journey from start to finish. What are the biggest lessons that you've learned so far about transparency, community building, and engaging with users while building a product?
I think in the very beginning, and I won't take credit for this, I'll give it to Ali Abdal, who I took his sort of YouTube course when I first started getting into this. No one's going to watch it or care in the beginning. So don't sweat it. Just literally pick up your phone and go hey guys, I just built a thing today and I'm super excited and I think it's going well, but I don't know, I'll do it tomorrow, and hit save and just put it on a YouTube channel and just keep going. And when you do that, I think it helps other people who are sort of in that place who may be stuck and thinking, I should do it, but maybe not. And I don't know. And in that place is that when you hear other people's early journeys of how they just overcame one or two little humps. It's also great just, I don't know, documenting for me or my boys or whatever in the futures. The first time we got outside funding, we had 2 calls with our primary investor. And after the first call, Martina and I jumped on Riverside and we were like, did that just happen?
I love that. I love that you did that.
Are we going to get money? I don't know. And then we had a second call and then we were like, I think we're going to get money. and then the third and final one was after I surprised Martina by inviting her onto the link, and she thought we were going to review, I don't know, the product or whatever. And what I did is I did a quick screen share and I showed the bank account when the wire had come through, and she was like, oh my, and so cute. Just trying to, and I think it's nice because I would have loved to have seen that for Slack or, you know what I mean? Or any of the companies that we use every day, is just sort of see those super early, videos of how it came together.
100%. And when we're studying businesses similar to, when I not to pivot to this, but let's say you're in an MBA class and you're reading case studies after case study after case study, the fact that you're documenting it is going to be something that students and people that are interested in learning about business could tune in and have a case study about what you're doing and really know what to do and perhaps what not to do as well. So Very interesting. It's super helpful. And I find that that's so interesting. And I know that many of our listeners are entrepreneurs or people that are interested in starting their own business. Do you have any advice for founders that are navigating the early stages of building a company?
Don't take too much advice. There are no rules. Everyone says you have to do this, and you have to do that, and you have to do this. You don't. I think you do. I think the hardest thing to do, though, which is probably one of the most important, is just having enough space and surrounding yourself with the right people who have the right sort of energy and juju, but to also just listen and really listen to yourself in terms of I literally feel like I'm on this river and it's just sort of heading down and I'm going wee, and obviously you hit a couple of bumps or whatever, but there's something so, I don't know, cellular that I know that this is the right river and I'm headed down the right path. But early on, it's hard because you may start the day on a real big high and you think you got a good win. And by the end of the day, you're like, this is never going to work, And so I think giving yourself enough space and just really listening to sort of your, especially if you've got an experience in a field or something like that, is just listening to sort of your own experience and intuition versus everyone's going to give you all sorts of advice, and doesn't mean that it's right for you. You got to find your own sort of path.
Love that. Find your own. Find your own. That's a good quote there. And it's something that we can all hear. I know that I could definitely appreciate that. Having started a PR agency and gone through so many different ups and downs and turns and what we wanted to be. And it's just rather interesting. And Kyle, before we wrap up, can you tell us a little bit about what's next for Stacklist and where our listeners can follow along with your journey? I know where we can follow along, but just so you can tell everybody.
Yeah. So we have two podcasts. One is Building Stacklist, and that is my co-founder and I and our team just recording sessions of having conversations. This was a hard week, or or this just happened. And that is our team. And then I also have Zero to which is sort of my podcast interviewing founders and CEOs and early founding team members of companies like Contra and Click Up and people like that, of basically saying, like, tell me about the week before you started your company. Like, what were you thinking? And like the day of when you bought the domain name. And part of that is, also it's super helpful for me to hear these sort of stories of we were either going to run out of money, or like we spent 1.5 years doing an email campaign that didn't do anything. And just hearing these things also helps me sort of, take that into my own journey.
You are so charismatic, by the way. So not only am I hearing that you definitely know what you're doing when it comes to tech. So like the tech stack that you're building, there's a lot that goes into it. And of course, we're not a tech podcast, so we don't need to get into all of that. But everybody that's listening in definitely knows. But on top of that, you're charismatic. And I feel like people want to tune in with your journey. They want to support what you're doing. And I appreciate you sharing it with us today.
Yeah, totally. Thank you.
So thank you for being on. And for our listeners that want to connect with Kyle and check out Stacklist, be sure to follow the links in our show notes. Thank you so much.